The only thing that's going to get your attention is when you taste it and you can taste the difference. Nothing else matters. We didn't have equipment handed down, land handed down, seed handed down. We didn't have anything. We're literally starting at that point that you stopped. That was the beginning. We started this business 8 years ago now. We met each other in high school. Our dream was to have a farm. We have no farming experience background, no family farming experience background. The task was daunting, to say the least. If we were going to do this, I assumed that we would have business careers and one day wind up with a small farm, and we decided that if we were going to do this, it was going to be now or never, and that was 8 years ago. So corn, I had never grown corn before, but came up with this idea of a product and decided it was going to be corn. I wanted a non-GMO corn. I particularly wanted an heirloom, and I put the word out to a few friends that what I wanted, and was able to get some seed from an old gentleman that had been growing the seed for, had been in his family over 100 years. And I thought, if it's good enough for them, it's good enough for me, and that's how we started. We literally had a bag of cob corn that we shelled off here in the living room one night, and that's what we planted that spring. Saved our seed for 2 years before we were able to go to market with that. On the milling side, I'd never milled anything, didn't have a mill, had no idea about that, so that was a whole nother learning experience. The soil health is what I thought would make us different. That is what I thought would make our product better. It's been very exciting to see that happen.
That is true.
Yeah.
A top priority to cook in the home. We try to just encourage people. It's easy, and yes, on the back of the bag is cheese grits, but we're in the South. If I didn't offer a cheese grits recipe, there might be a revolt, I'm not sure. But the beauty of cooking at home is you can control the quality of your ingredients.
That's right.
You know, the difference.
What sets you apart?
That is the difference.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Will you tell us a little bit about that, because some of these people want to know?
My whole premise in doing this was I needed to find a different way, because this is already being done. Grits were already done, corn's already done in the field. So how would I set myself apart? And soil health or quality was what I thought would set me apart. I've done a tremendous amount of experimentation on my own to see what works for us and what doesn't. We're in a different climate here than most corn that's grown in the corn belt. The first thing I started was cover crops. When I saw cover crops, you could grow a crop, roll it down, and it form a mat on the ground. I've worked in the dirt my entire life, just not in agriculture. When I saw that, I said, that's different.
Because in the heat of summer, when there's usually not any rain, you can pull that mat apart and you touch the soil. It's 20 degrees cooler, and you look and it's alive. There's creepy crawlies and little worms that are busy working, breaking down the mat, the cover crop that you just rolled over. And in turn, that's what feeds the corn. It's amazing.
Our soils are heavy clay, typically in the area. We've gone from a red colored soil to a dark colored soil, more of a, I'm not going to call it black, but it's more of a dark brown.
I noticed that. Looks really healthy.
Unbelievable. When we started this, I showed you the corn down there, and that was 100-year-old timber just 5 years ago. So the fact that we've gone from cutting the timber, turning that into row crop ground, now that soil is dark, that's impressive.
It's quick.
It's quick.
It's quick when you're very intentional about what you're doing.
The research that I had read about was saying, this takes hundreds of years, total nonsense. The fact is, you have to treat the soil as if it's living. It is a living, breathing organism. The better you treat the soil, very limited tillage, if tillage at all. I believe you need to till a little bit, but not turning the soil, more of seed cornbread preparation than anything. Constantly growing something in the soil. You don't want bare soil. You're going to have bare soil from the time the winter cover dies to the summer cover starts. You're going to have a 4 to 5 week period there that there's nothing on the soil. You want thatch on the soil, protecting the soil at that point. The soil's constantly covered. If you look at how the critters in the soil work, and plants also, plants take in sunshine, they excrete sugars through their roots, and that feeds the critters in the soil.
Fungus
all that. So limited fertilizers also is a major deal. So these cover crops, when I started this, turns out it's freaking amazing. These cows just, it was amazing.
They were healthy, very healthy.
Extremely. I wish I could show you pictures. And then we came in with corn the next year after that and had one of the best corn crops we'd ever had where the cattle were, you know. I'm one guy, along with Michelle. Yes, we're a team, but we can only do so much. That's where, you know, we've got to replicate this on a larger scale. It's just hard when you're starting from scratch to get there, but that's where we're headed. We're trying a lot of these kind of things just to see what works and what doesn't. A lot of stuff doesn't work that you read about, at least in our area. And what works in our area may not work in a different area. Keep the weeds down, keep something constantly growing, and rotate your cash crop.
And like you said down there, every year, it won't be there next year, you're rotating it out.
Yeah.
If someone is new to gardening, they're like, how can I do this on a small scale? What are your top threes that you would say to someone new, maybe like me, like I have raised beds. I've had some successes and I've had a lot of failures. And that's what I want. I want sustainable. I want to be able to do it on my own without having to go and buy fertilizer.
What I would suggest first is get in the right mindset. Don't expect, to have this beautiful, abundant garden your first try. It's like everything else. It takes time to learn what works and what doesn't for you.
Make it enjoyable, number one. If you hate being in the garden, you're never going to be in the garden, right? It should be a place of escape, in a way. It's a lot of work, too. I'm not taking that away from it, at least the type of gardening we do. But that's where systems like raised beds really can benefit you. It is an investment. To get started, you have the investment of the soil and whatever material and the time to build the beds. But what that does is it allows you to not have the tilling and the big maintenance things down the road. Know your source. If you're bringing in compost, where is it coming from? Has it been tested? Have you heard all the craziness going on with composted soil being contaminated and no one can even grow anything in their garden? You've done all this work and you can't even grow a tomato or a green bean, which is just infuriating that that's even possible. But in our situation, we do not have raised beds. We have a market style garden and we rely on straw or hay to suppress weeds so that we're not having to till or weed eat as much. But it's very important to know your source of that as well. We're lucky enough to have neighbors that bale hay and we know what they spray on their fields can kill you. Or don't spray. Exactly. That's even better. And then I think my third tip would be to have something beautiful. Don't think that everything that comes from your garden has to feed your tummy. It's very important, but it has to feed your soul in a way as well. I've been cutting flowers and bringing them in every week, and I feel like I've hit the jackpot. That's probably my most favorite thing in our garden.
They're beautiful.
But it brings happiness. Yeah. It makes me excited to go out to the garden.
And stress is such a big epidemic in our world today, and it's a great stress reliever.
It is.
To be able to, just like you said, an escape, and that is what my garden is for me.
And then maybe the fourth thing is have realistic expectations. It's not going to always be beautiful, but you have to remember the beauty when the weeds are
That's right.
taking over, and just understand that that's the cycle of the year, and when it's August or September, that's just what's going to happen.
Yes.
And that's just preparing you for,
That's
for
right.
the
And
fall
what you
garden.
started out saying about don't expect it to be perfect this first year, and I love that you said that, because that I wanted to tap out, and because I'm like, oh, this didn't work.
Doesn't work for me, right?
But it's a journey.
Right.
And it will work. And so, this cucumber did great, and it's
Right.
prolific, but this tomato plant didn't. Figure out why, move on, better luck next year.
Companion planting is something that people should look into, and that doesn't mean companion plants. It can mean side by side, but that can also mean different times of the year. So summertime you have a plant. In the wintertime, you want to plant a plant that likes what was planted there before, So I started thinking about growing corn. But then outside of corn, what would help the corn? It's animals, it's cover crops. It's, if you look at everything as a whole
Yeah.
versus you say, I want cucumbers, so we're going to plant cucumbers. That's great, but what would help that cucumber? And you start going down that hole, you realize, wow, this is a system.
Yeah.
This isn't
Exactly.
a one thing that I want to plant or harvest or grow or whatever. That is what drives me, is soil health, and it's amazing to talk to customers and see what they think of all of this work that goes into this product.
What caught my attention is that it's non-GMO, and then also to hear about the heirloom seeds, and then as I got to talking to you guys even more, to hear about what you're doing with your soil, and it just kept leveling up, with the reason why these are the only grits, the only corn flour that I have in my home. That's it. So easy to get online and you can order it from there. And so just had to let you know something else that's super special going on in the community. So many people say that corn is bad for you, and that's not true. It's the type of corn that you're eating. So if you're eating commercial corn, GMO'd, that is sprayed with pesticides and the germ is separated, then you're doing something harmful for your body because your body doesn't know what to do with it. Don't shortchange the corn. Don't take it out of your diet. Just put it in your diet the right way.